Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. More drama in Zimbabwe. The most important thing that has happened in Zimbabwe during these 2023 elections is SADC and the AU, in my view, coming to their senses. Both SADC and the AU have condemned the Zimbabwe elections as flawed and illegal. It is certain that both SADC and the AU are not going to grant Zanu PF political legitimacy. And this has thrown Zanu PF into a panic, both, in fact, Zanu PF and CCC. Zanu PF, Patrick Chinamasa, and Chris Musangwa have already responded to SADC, condemning, saying that SADC had no right to, or the SADC election observer team had no right to condemn the elections. They'd exceeded their powers. That is really irrelevant. The point is the observers noted what was going on the ground. And they unreservedly condemned it, and rightly so too. The party is in a panic. Right now, they've declared the parliamentary seats, and Zanu PF was leading. The presidential one is still to be declared. Zanu PF faithful claim that Mnangagwa is leading. CCC faithful claim that Chamisa is leading. But to be quite honest, the result of these elections is now totally irrelevant. If the process is flawed, you will not have any legitimate winner. Nor would it be correct to try to give legitimacy to the loser. The process is flawed. And what is more, both Zanu PF and CCC got us into this mess. Zanu PF clearly did not want any meaningful democratic reforms. And so it was very pleased when CCC, then at the time, MDC, failed to implement even one meaningful reform when they had the golden opportunity to do so during the GNU. And ever since, MDC/CCC have participated in these flawed elections, knowing fully well that Zanu PF was rigging them, but we're content as long as they got a share of the spoils of power. And I have referred to this point again and again, and I'm quoting it once more here. This was what David Coltart said in his book. He was talking of the 2013 elections, which SADC had said CCC, or at the time MDC, should not participate in because the process is flawed. But MDC had participated regardless. And according to David Coltart, which is admitting here, because of greed. So MDC/CCC participated in the 2013 elections out of greed. SADC in those elections responded by granting Zanu PF or whoever ZEC declared the winner as the winner in despair. When Nelson Chamisa, as leader of MDC Alliance, went ahead and participated again in 2018, claiming he has stringent measures to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections, which was all hot air, of course. Was only trying to hide. He could not jolly well tell the people that we are participating in these elections out of greed. And as we know, Zanu PF went on to rig those elections. ZEC declared them with the winner, and SADC rubber stamped the result. The difference this time is SADC has come out strongly and said they're not going to rubber stamp these elections. This has taken Zanu PF completely by surprise. They thought SADC was going to do the usual thing. In fact, the statement by the South Africa's ANC that ANC would not allow regime change in Zimbabwe must have given Emerson Mnangagwa and his Zanu PF colleagues the confidence that they will get away with it. So the statement by the SADC election observer team condemning these elections, which, by the way, has been reiterated by the AU as well, has taken Zanu PF completely by surprise. And it is interesting to note that Nelson Chamisa is trying to step in and play the hero as if he is the one who has masterminded all this. This video is a CCC press conference which was interrupted, rudely interrupted, by Zanu PF operatives. We can just have a look at it.
Can you please tell the media we are addressing the
directing?
Yes. We don't know what CCC was going to say here, but we can guess. CCC have been trying to give the impression that they were winning. That's why Zanu PF is doing all this. The reality is the real game changer was caused by SADC, who have rejected this whole process as flawed and illegitimate. And CCC are hoping that they could use the situation to claim that, you see, we were winning. That's why it's unopened. It doesn't, it's not true. And in this particular case, it only reinforces what SADC did in 2013 was the right thing. CCC was never going to implement any meaningful reforms. And what they're trying to do now is take advantage of the situation that SADC has created and hope they could be endorsed as the legitimate government. Zimbabweans should realize that the 2008 to 2013 GNU was a golden opportunity to implement the democratic reforms and end this chaos of rigged elections that has characterized Zimbabwe ever since our independence in 1980. What the political crisis that has emerged from this, by SADC refusing to grant Zanu PF legitimacy, has created the same situation as in 2008, which ended up with a GNU. We want a GNU, and that GNU must implement the democratic reforms and get the country out of this mess. If we are serious about getting those reforms implemented, it's obvious. We cannot allow the same people who failed to implement even one token reform in 5 years of the last GNU to play any part in the new GNU. Both Zanu PF and CCC should have absolutely nothing to do with the new GNU. I think it's a situation that I believe SADC leaders will understand themselves. SADC leaders are the ones who were nagging Morgan Tsvangirai, Nelson Chamisa, Tendai Biti, David Coltart, all the MDC leaders who are now in CCC to implement the reforms during the 2008 to 2013 GNU. And they failed to get even one token reform implemented. If I was SADC, I'd be loath to find myself working with the same people again and trying to get them to implement reforms. If they did not implement reforms then, why should they implement them now? Why should I believe they'll implement them now? And I honestly believe that Nelson Chamisa is not interested in implementing any meaningful democratic reforms either. All he's interested in is to be the president. He will work happily with whichever Zanu PF faction that helped him get into power. The chaos that has been created here, I believe he is just trying to take advantage of it and pretend that he was winning. The truth of the matter is, if SADC had not made a U-turn on endorsing rigged elections in Zimbabwe, we would be looking at a situation here where it's just a matter of who ZEC decide is going to be president. And I don't think ZEC would have failed to produce the necessary results to endorse Mnangagwa as the new president. But like I said before, the results of these elections now are irrelevant. If the process is flawed and illegal, the winner cannot be legitimate, nor can we pretend we can confer legitimacy on the loser, particularly when the loser was himself involved in the flawed and illegal election process. We cannot pretend that CCC did not have the opportunity to implement the democratic reforms which would have ended this case of rigged elections. They did. For 23 years, they had the opportunity. The best being during the GNU. We are having a second bite at the cherry to implement the democratic reforms and get Zimbabwe back on track. We should not compromise it now. SADC have given us the opportunity to get it right. And we should not be found wanting in getting it right. There are those who are clamoring that, oh, we've got to give Chamisa credit for vigilance. Vigilance in what? C, MDC are the ones who got us into this mess. If they'd implemented the democratic reform during the GNU, Zimbabwe would be in a completely different place now. 2013 elections would have been free, fair, and credible. And elections ever since that would have been free, fair, and credible. We must do the right thing. And the right thing right now is to make sure that we appoint people, men and women, and I think we've got many people who could carry out the task, both Zimbabweans and non-Zimbabweans. Coming up with democratic reforms is not rocket science. Let's get the reforms implemented. Zimbabwe is a sewage pond. Let's drain the sewage pond, fill it with clean water. As long as we keep the sewage pond, we'll never get quality leaders. Just as much as you don't get quality fish from a sewage pond. Let's do the right thing. SADC has done us a second favor. The first one was in 2008 when they rejected Zanu PF's claim that they'd won the 2008 elections and helped form the GNU. We want a second GNU, and this second one must implement the democratic reforms. That point must not be compromised in any way. And to suggest that Zanu PF leaders or C leaders could be involved in that new GNU would be to compromise, to risk that second GNU failing to implement the democratic reforms. If they failed the first time, what hope is there that they will not do it again? It is in their interest not to do it. We must get our country back on a democratic footing. We must show the courage to seize the opportunity. We have been given a second bite at the cherry cake. We must get it right this time. We must not compromise on a GNU that will deliver the democratic reforms. That is the message that I'm leaving with you tonight. Thank you and good night.